Welcome back to Cryptid Mysterious. Today we have a pretty interesting encounter. A husband and wife were actually charged by a Bigfoot. That would scare me absolutely to death. Well, smash that subscribe button for me and let's jump right in. This one comes to us from Gunther, a resident of Boulder, Colorado. It was July of 2009 that my wife Hilda and I had gone to spend a week in Mount Revelstoke National Park to take in a little relaxation and some hiking. We'd planned a vacation around the summer months when the alpine meadows are in full bloom, being carpeted with yellow arnica, asters, blue lupine, scarlet paintbrush, and the white valerians. It very much reminds us of our youth in Germany. We'd begun our day's hike from the campground near the Landmark Trail, our destination being the meadow atop Revelstoke at some 6,300 feet. On the lower slope, we were making our way through the mountain ash, green elders, wild cherries, red and black elders, and the black cottonwoods. Interspersed with all these are huckleberry, blueberry, and salmon berry bushes, which attract quite a few bears, so you better be careful. As you ascend the slope, in the Douglas fir, giant cedar, white pines, they start to take over. After some 4,000 or 5,000 feet, it's the Engelmann spruce and alpine firs that dominate the landscape. Having made the summit, we'd entered into what is a rolling alpine meadow, with Mount Tilly and Mount Mackenzie being in full view in the distance. Spruce and firs are scattered in patches and small groupings here and there on the summit. We'd sat down on some small boulders for well-needed rest after the climb, and I think we'd been sitting for maybe a half an hour in the sun when Hilda pointed out to me that one of the spruce trees, some 200 or 300 yards away from our position, was thrashing back and forth in a violent and most unusual manner. We sat watching this for some 10 minutes or so, fully expecting to see a bear emerge from the trees. When nothing of the sort happened, we continued to watch and wait. The tree, having stopped shaking, Hilda and I decided to move a bit closer in hopes of seeing some type of wildlife in the trees. I think we had advanced perhaps 50 yards or so when a loud sound that I will describe as a violent roar erupted from the grouping of trees directly ahead of us. This was the same patch where the one tree had begun shaking violently only minutes before. This roar was so loud that I could feel the pressure from it in my body, despite us being some 200 yards away from it. At least that's my estimation at the time. Neither one of us ever heard a grizzly roar. We both believed that's what it was. The roar had frozen us in our tracks, and we actually started to slowly retreat when a large, hairy beast on two legs came running out of the trees some 50 yards back and stopped abruptly in the meadow. It was looking directly at us, flailing its arms around in the air and thrashing its head and upper body back and forth while growling. The growl sounded more like a deep, guttural whine. The speed with which this beast had run 50 yards was so fast that if he continued, it would have been on top of us in an instant. That would have been our demise, for sure. I grabbed Hilda's hand and we slowly started to back away, not wanting to startle the beast. As we did so, it made another fast charge toward us, once again stopping after some 20 or 30 yards. This charge was followed yet again by a growling and flailing of arms and head, just as it did on the first charge. The size of this thing was immense, and its actions told us that its intent was vicious, to say the least. The two of us kept slowly backing away as the beast was intermittently continuing to growl and throw its arms and head all around in front of us. We'd actually backed away some maybe 75 yards or so when the two of us turned and started to walk. At first, our steps were slow and cautious, then we quickly hurried up our pace, making it over the side of the meadow to head back down the slope of Revelstoke. As my wife and I made our descent from the meadow, we couldn't help thinking of this creature and if it was going to follow us. We were on edge. Finally, we reached the bottom, and when we were clear of all the trees, the two of us sat down for a well-deserved break and began to talk. Both of us now knew we had an encounter with a Bigfoot and thought that in some way, shape, or form, we'd walked in on some type of activity it was planning in this meadow. We'd become intruders in its territory, maybe, and it wasn't happy about us being there, obviously. Although it could have easily crossed the entire meadow and attacked us, it didn't, which indicated to us that it was trying to scare us off. And it did one heck of a job doing it. Being so far away from us, it's hard to say how big it really was. And having nothing to measure it against, the thing that impressed me most was the depth of its roar. It had to have come deep from within the bowels of a very substantial beast indeed. The second thing was how quickly it was able to move with relative ease during both of the charges toward us. It was able to cover large amounts of ground in what appeared to be 6 or 8 very rapid steps. They appeared to be fast leaps that were very hard to distinguish separately. The succession of these leaps was so quick that to our eyes it seemed like a blur. However tall it may have been, its physique was that of a bodybuilder, times 10. It was fully covered in reddish-brown hair that appeared to be somewhere between, I'd say, 4 and 10 inches long, depending on where on the body you're looking. This encounter was so dramatic and life-changing, we just had to come here and talk about it. Seeing is certainly believing, and neither of us had really given much thought to the reality of their existence until that day in the meadow. How quickly things change. Well, doesn't that just make you want to go for a hike in the mountains? You know, let's plan a trip to the Rockies or something. Go out in the middle of absolutely nowhere where people haven't poured concrete yet. I don't know, man. Sleep with one eye open if you're going out there. I mean, honestly, a lot of these stories we hear are like this one where the Bigfoot actually, yeah, you may have stepped into his territory, but the thing didn't actually come and dismember the people, or eat them or do anything of that nature. But then again, what about all the stories of the missing persons cases that are never solved? I mean, there's how many thousands of missing persons cases that are cold from hikers and hunters and explorers, people that go out into the wilderness, especially, out in the mountains, and just never to be seen again. Bigfoot maybe, or maybe they got injured and couldn't make it out alive and they got eaten by something else, because you're not going to end up lasting too long out there if you die. Nature will literally absorb your body. Then again, if you got a bunch of camping gear or hiking gear or that kind of stuff, you'd think some people would find stuff laying around, with all these missing people. You'd think that like clothes or gear would turn up from time to time or be stumbled upon. But so often people go missing and literally nothing is ever found. And that's definitely a mystery. So that was kind of a rant or ramble I wasn't planning on getting into, but I do think about with encounters like this, as much as I'd love to, plan a vacation and get out there in the wild and see one for myself, which, obviously like the odds are like hitting the lottery, but do I really want a chance not coming back? I mean, again, the odds are like hitting the lottery, obviously these encounters are happening like relatively frequently, and there's hundreds, if not thousands of these stories on the internet, but still, comparatively, to all the people that actually get out and explore, the amount of people that actually run across these things, it's far and few in between. But anyway, I'm done rambling. I appreciate y'all for hanging out. If you haven't already, smash that subscribe button for me. And, the like button was telling me that it was going to throw a rock at your car because it's such an ugly color. I think you need to smack that thing. Teach them some sense. I'll see y'all in the next one. And wait, if you've had an encounter or you know someone who did, drop me an email at cryptidmysterious@gmail.com. I'd love to hear it. I'll see you in the next one.